In this video, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at one more aspect of macros, and that is rather than just assigning them to a keyboard shortcut, we're going to put buttons on the screen so you don't have to remember any keyboard shortcuts. All you have to do is read what the button says and click on the button. So earlier we created a macro that would filter by major. So if I go to my developer tab here and click on macros, it'll give me a list of the macros that I've got, and I call that BUAD majors, although I changed it after I created it to filter for any major that I wanted to. So BUAD major is probably not the best name for it anymore, but we're not going to worry about that right now. What we're concerned about here is assigning this macro to a button on the spreadsheet so that the user of the spreadsheet does not have to remember any keyboard shortcuts. So if we want to do that, what we need to do is we need to go to design mode. What we're going to do here is we're going to draw a button on the screen here, and then go to insert, and under form controls we want to insert a button. And when you do that, you get crosshairs for your cursor, which means that you can click and drag and it'll create a rectangle for you. So draw something, typical button size. And it wants to know what the only point of creating a button on the screen is to assign it to a macro so that you can invoke a macro with it. So as soon as you draw a button, it comes up and says, what macro do you want to assign to this button? And I want to assign the BUAD majors to it. Click on OK. And this is what I get. I get a button here with the label button 1 on it, which is not a very descriptive name. If I click off of it, and if we turn off design mode, now it's just basically another button. If I click on it, it will come up and say which major do I want. Let's type in computer science, click on OK, and those are the computer science majors. And I got that just by clicking on the button. And let's go back here and clear the filter. And actually I want to go back to data here, and I want to turn filtering off as well. Now let's go back to our developer tab, and let's go back into design mode, and let's right click on the button here. And I moved the mouse a little bit when I right clicked on it, so I'm going to have to try that again. Right click on it and choose edit text. And button 1 obviously is not very descriptive, so I want to select the text that is there, and I want to type in a more descriptive command. Okay, so filter by major is what I'm going to call it. And I'm going to turn off design mode, and now if a user clicks on filter by major and they type in a major, type in CSCI again, click on OK, it invokes the filter by, or actually BUAD major macro, and allows me to type in whatever I want to in the input box, and then it carries out the macro. So you can automate, you can make it even easier for macros to work by adding buttons here. And if you add buttons, you could create a macro for somebody else who may not know how to create macros and may not be real good at using Excel. And all they have to do is they have to remember which button to click on. They don't have to memorize keyboard shortcuts. They don't have to know all the commands that are required for carrying out the command. They don't have to know anything about macros. All they have to do is know how to read and click on a button. So if you're creating spreadsheets for somebody else, this is probably the reason why you'd want to do something like this. So somebody else can use your spreadsheet and they can invoke your macros without having to know all the shortcuts.